Am I the a-hole for not wanting to ask my dad to add an amount of money to my sister's college fund so she can attend our dream school which I will be going to? Okay, so my parents got divorced when I was 14. When it turned out me and my twin sister were not my dad's bio children. Dad found mom cheating again with bio dad, and she confessed to it in a fit of rage. We had DNA tests done, but dad assured us that it didn't change anything and we were still his daughters. My sister had different ideas as she went to live with mom and bio dad. I feel this was it for dad, and he went through a rough phase during that time and lost his job. Then he used up all his savings to keep me comfortable at his own therapy. My mom somehow realized this and said she wanted control of my sister's college fund. And I still remember her exact words when she left our house. Enjoy it while it lasts. You'll come crying to me when it makes you homeless. Well, dad got an extremely well-paying job a few months after that, and we have been more than comfortable since, and dad has added a substantial amount of money to my college fund. I did meet my mother and sister a few times after that, but mom didn't want my bad influence on my twin, so we were low contact, so she didn't know the exact amount of money he was making. Now it's time for college, and mom called me yesterday asking me which university I'll be going to. I told her about my dream school and a few others, all admittedly expensive. She was silent for a few moments before she said she needed to go and hung up. Well, she called my dad, and she demanded to know how he was paying for it, because even the original sum of college fund wasn't enough for those universities. On learning the reason, she demanded he add the required amount of money to my sister's college fund, and a bit more because she has used up 10% of it. On what? She refused to say. My dad refused. So my mother called me back saying I was depriving my sister of a good college life. My bio dad and sister have also messaged me saying the same thing, and what my sister said hit hard. We both had discussed going to the same university, which is the dream school I'm talking about, but we thought at the time we couldn't afford it. And now I can and she can't. She says if I ask dad to do it, he will. And he probably will, but I feel like that's emotional manipulation. She also said I should give up a bit of my fund so both of us could at least have an equal amount, but I feel like that would be betraying my dad. Am I the a-hole? Info. My parents had 50-50 custody of me and my sister, but my sister didn't want to meet dad since she wanted to bond with her real dad. My dad did try to reach out to her, sat her down, and asked her if anyone was pressuring her, but she was adamant, so he had to back off. My mom said I had betrayed her, but didn't force me to visit, and my dad never had a conversation with me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They made their choice and are mad now that yours has worked out better. If I were you, I'd show everything they've sent to your dad and let him make his own decision. Definitely don't give up any of your college fund. Any choices a 14-year-old makes shouldn't impact the rest of their life, but sometimes they do. It's a sad story all around, even for Opie, but neither her nor her dad are a-holes. You owe them nothing. Hopefully there can be healing sometime in the future, but I wouldn't count on it. Or pay for it. Not the a-hole. I guarantee if Opie's dad hadn't gotten such a good job and Opie was struggling to go to college and had to take out loans, neither her mother nor bio dad would have helped out. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry some of the adults in your life failed you, and so glad your non-biological father has stepped up and been an adult anyway. Your college fund is your own, and you're being manipulated. Exactly. I detest people like that who only come to you when they know you're earning well. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your mom is especially an A for not trying to maintain a good relationship with you, and for saying you betrayed her. You're not the one who cheated on your dad. Your sister is upset, but she also went off on your dad and refused to see him. Your dad went through tough times and is doing better, so he's been able to pay into your college fund a bit more. He doesn't even have access to your sister's fund, and her mom has dipped into it. You and your dad sound okay, but your mom, sister, and her dad are abusive. You should share the messages with your dad, but also make sure you tell him that they're being unreasonable. Whether your dad pays more into your sister's fund here is irrelevant. It would be kind, but he's not an a-hole to not do it. Next story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for reducing the money I'm willing to give to my stepdaughter for college? Original story. I had a pretty wild youth, and one of the women I slept with got pregnant. She didn't inform me about this, and I was oblivious of my biological son until about a year ago. He is 17 years old now. I have since become a bit saner and am happily married for 14 years. She has a daughter from a previous relationship who is 18, and they will be both going to college next year. We had talked about this when she was, and I had told her I would surely chip in about $30,000. Her grandparents from her dad's side are also willing to contribute money. Then last year, I told her that I may be able to contribute $40,000, but it was not a guarantee. This is a lot of money, but it took me a long time to save it. My son, on the other hand, has not enjoyed a comfortable upbringing. He has no support, and his mother is not in a financial position to pay for college. I want to contribute about $15,000, but we are running a pretty tight ship, and I don't think we can make any more cut without it affecting our retirement/savings. So I told my stepdaughter that I would only be able to contribute $30,000, and she was okay with it, before she found out we were also giving money to my son. She's very angry with me, and now she's being distant, more than usual. I think what I don't get is that it won't hurt her as her grandparents are willing to make up the difference. She is going to have the same budget that she can plan to spend on college. I feel a bit like an a-hole as I'm giving her the minimum amount possible which I had agreed on. I wish I could do more, but I can't. And I don't get why she is upset. I think I'm making the right decision here, but I know I have upset her and it is bothering me. My wife is not happy about it, but she's understanding. Now for the comments before reading the update. She's upset because you have another child taking your attention and money. It's irrational, but she will be upset and quietly jealous. This kid you didn't know about is suddenly dropped into your family's laps, and this is the first of many big steps that's going to be affected by one more person in the mix. She's seeing you give the extra you told her you would try to do to her replacement. You are by no way the a-hole supporting all your kids, but talk to people first. Please stop having discussion with your kids about what you might be able to give them. Anything you say they might get, they will expect they will get, because you are trying your damnedest to get it for them. That's the kind of miracles parents can pull off. And she's seeing the future where your attention and money might continue to be split. You need to start talking to her. This isn't just money that's the issue. Her family has changed without any of her input, and this needs to be addressed, both with your daughter and with your wife. Not the a-hole. It's also his stepdaughter, and the new kid is Opie's bio kid. There might be some subconscious fears about not being seen as a real child, and she might be worried about a sudden change to their relationship dynamic or that Opie will treat his bio son better than he treats her. I agree talk needs to be had where she can voice her concerns, and they can discuss what this might mean for their future family dynamics. Not the a-hole. You're being very generous to hand over that amount of cash, and she needs to realize you have other obligations too. Your son grew up most of his life without a father to support him, through no fault of your own as you were unaware of his existence. It's time your stepdaughter realizes it's not all about her anymore. It is lucky to have financial support from so many people. Her lack of gratitude is shocking. As you said, her grandparents are making up the difference, so what is the problem? Not the a-hole. Opie, you are way kinder and considerate than a lot of fathers. Your stepdaughter has people to help her. Your son does not. It's incredibly important that you help them both, and you are. I would consider speaking to your daughter. She may feel that you chose your bio kid over her. Explain why you made this decision. You didn't pick your son over her because he's biological. You chose to help him because she has more privilege and good fortune than he does. Edit. This is likely why she wasn't upset about the money until she found out who you gave it to. And now for the update. I saw that I was not the a-hole from the comments, but I did disagree with a few which stated that I had no obligation to pay for her education. I feel like I have an obligation to her and my wife to take care of them. I did see some comments about splitting it equally, but I think it's not fair to my stepdaughter to break the promise I had made, as she would have changed her plans too if I did that. I also found comments from people who have gone through a similar situation very insightful and helpful. I didn't need to speak to her as she apologized for making a big deal out of it when she knew she was going to get money from her grandparents. I accepted her apology and I left it there, as I felt I shouldn't try to pry when she was taking a huge step by apologizing for her mistake. We watched the Euro final together as we are both huge soccer fans, and she made some comments about if I wanted my son there, which I ignored as I felt it was coming from a place of hurt, and she was poking fun at me and not my son. It is true that I'm less cautious when interacting with my son. It is not because I don't think of her as my daughter, but due to our relationship suffering every time I tried to play the role of her father. I didn't want to disrespect the memory of her dad, and our relationship improved a lot when I stopped trying to spend time with her or parent her, as she told me. I think I made a huge mistake with this. I didn't renegotiate the implied line that were drawn early in her teenage years because I was scared of hurting her and myself. I was a coward. I drove her to her grandparents this week, and it was mostly just driving in silence. But I did bring up that she would get to play soccer again, and I hoped I could attend more matches this school year. She smiled and nodded, and said that she would like that. We then talked about football for most of the drive back. It was nice, and I think we used to do this often. It also struck me that she plays the same position that I used to play, which made me a bit emotional. My wife has suggested about family counseling. My daughter wants to do it too, so yeah. Probably need to budget for that, but I think it will be worth it. Edit. If I was not clear, I am still giving my son the money I told I would give him. That has not changed. After reading up on your situation, although I get your stepdaughter is likely feeling jealous, I just hope your son who hasn't had a dad or any good financial support isn't being looked over by a kid who has been supported and loved just because she's jealous. I think you've done what you can do for this kid, and that counseling is a possible option. I find it sad that both my children suffered from not having their bio dad in their lives, but I'm not overlooking him. He is getting the money and he is happy to spend time with me. I don't plan on cutting back the time I spend with him at all. I am thinking of counseling as I feel it would be helpful. But he is getting less money from you while needing it the most. He is also more willing to have a relationship with you. I feel happy for your daughter, but still can't help feeling that your son is getting the short end of the stick. If you get sued for back child support, you would owe him so much money. I know I'm not being fair to him. However, I have promised him that I will help him with his career. He is planning to study in a field which is adjacent to mine, and I'm planning to help him land internships and help him out. He is fine with the help that he is getting. He was planning on just taking student loans, and any help that he gets feels huge for him. I really wish I had known I had a son a few years earlier. I could have done more for him and saved up more for him. So all about your stepdaughter and her college fund, but no mention about your bio son? This post was about my conflict with my stepdaughter. I have a warm relationship with my son, and we get on well. If you were asking if he's still getting the money, yes, he is. That has not changed. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his son out after what his son did at my daughter's birthday party? My daughter Nora, 16, loves baking and is dedicated to learning more about it. This summer, she's focusing on learning to make ice cream with different types and flavors. She makes great homemade ice cream. Now, her birthday was last week. The family of Nora's friends and their parents came. She handled preparing desserts and prepared homemade berry ice cream cups and served everyone at the party. She and her girlfriends wanted to wait to eat their ice cream later, so she left their plate in the freezer. When it was time for them to have ice cream, Nora went inside the kitchen to get the plate. On her way to her friends, she was stopped by her cousin Elijah, 14, who has a bit of bad attitude, but is spoiled because of his heart condition. He wanted to take 2 cups of ice cream for him and her brother Sean, but she refused to let him take any, because he and Sean already had ice cream while Nora and friends still hadn't. They began exchanging words, and Elijah began shouting at her and pressuring her to let him have some. When she said no again, he took the whole plate out of her hand and tossed it into the pool that already had kids in it. There was loud noise when Nora screamed, "Mom," and I ran out. The guests followed. I saw Nora cry, pointing at the pool, saying Elijah tossed the ice cream into the pool because she declined to share her friend's ice cream with him. Elijah was sitting pretending to play on his phone, completely denying it happened, and saying Nora accidentally dropped the plate. He had nothing to do with it. Nora's friends said he was lying, but my son Sean sided with his cousin and said Nora was lying. He got punished for lying on his sister, but Nora swore Elijah did it. So I told him to get up from his chair and immediately demanded he confess and apologize. He kept stalling, till my brother intervened, telling me to stop humiliating his sick son and wanting him to confess and apologize for something he didn't do. I told him I believe my daughter and I trust her to tell the truth, unlike a son who doesn't respect anyone. My brother argued with me when I kept demanding Elijah to apologize, and when he refused, I told him to take his son and leave. Mom told me to take it easy, but I repeatedly told him to take Elijah and just leave. My brother called me a horrible sister and a horrible aunt to kick him and Elijah out after they came to celebrate Nora's birthday and brought her gifts. He accused me of creating hate towards his sick kid and had a family tell me kicking him and Elijah out in front of everyone was cruel. They wanted us to reconcile, but I refused since Nora hasn't even been offered an apology. This could have been an exaggeration on my part, but Nora doesn't deserve this treatment no matter the circumstances. It's sad that my family think we should just suck it up because my nephew has chronic medical condition. Not today, Hall. Just because he has a heart condition doesn't mean he's not a little a-hole. Sounds like your brother turned him into one. Yeah, someone last night isn't gonna give two craps about his heart condition, and it's gonna be a rude awakening for him. Husband's step-nephew has a chronic condition, so his parents have spoiled him into an unbearable jerk. They've also spoiled his sister into a brat, because they feel so bad for her having to deal with a high-maintenance brother. They're just kids, and my kid-loving husband is just over it. He pays them zero attention, and it drives the brats crazy during family get-together because they are so used to being the center of all attention. Definitely not today, Hall. Your sick nephew is a bully who uses his condition to get away with terrible behavior, and your brother has enabled it. Good for you for sticking up for your daughter. I am a retired nurse who worked years ago with chronically ill kids. Some do get spoiled by their parents, who have guilt over having a sick kid, even though they are not at fault. They often have a fear that the child will die, which is possible, and overcompensate by not holding the kid responsible for his behavior. I personally know a young man who had leukemia as a child, did not respond to chemo, had a last-ditch bone marrow transplant that saved him. His parents spoiled him terribly, and he grew up to be obnoxious and entitled. Not today, Hall. It is time for nephew to learn some manners and empathy, if it is not already too late.
The a-hole for taking away my dad's girlfriend's keys after she tried to send me to bed. For context, I, 21 female, have 4 siblings, 26 male, 23 male, 12 female, and 10 male. Our uncle has been our legal guardian since our mom passed, and my dad has been out of our lives. My 23-year-old brother and I are home for the summer from college. My oldest brother lives in the city. Since we've come home, my uncle's been away on a work trip, so it's just been me and my siblings around the house. Further context, my dad used to be a problem drinker and was basically estranged for half of my life. Very limited contact. And growing up, it's always been my siblings and me taking care of each other. For the past year or so, my dad has been wanting to reconnect with us, mainly my younger siblings. He's been getting better in his habits. He was clean for 3 years and managed to keep his act together. Because of this, we've allowed a couple of visits from time to time. 4 months ago, he started seeing someone new, quite a bit younger than him, in her 30s, and she seems to have this strange obsession with playing mom. She visits way more frequently than he does, and seems to be under the impression that she's our new stepmom. I think it's kind of weird, but we just let her do her thing since she's not harming anyone. She does have this patronizing way of addressing us. It's better with my older brothers, but with me, it gets a little ridiculous sometimes. Again, I kinda just ignore it and go about my own business. A few weeks before my brother and I came home, she was helping my uncle pick up our younger siblings from school and driving them home. Because of that, she was given a key to the house. Since then, she's been around all the time, and just playing parent to my younger siblings, but not really doing much because my older brothers and I take care of the responsibilities. In short, the situation started when we had her and my dad over for dinner. My brothers cooked a great meal, and it was all going well, until my dad ended up making a very insensitive and inappropriate joke during dinner, and she corroborated that joke by making a really ugly insinuation about our late mother. Not gonna get into that. We saw them out, and that was that. We put the kids to bed and talked about what happened, and informed our uncle about the situation. We were all unsure of what to do. The next afternoon, both my brothers were busy with work, and I picked up the kids from school and got home to my dad's girlfriend in our kitchen. This was the first time she let herself in when nobody was home, and it caught me kinda off guard. She had basically come to apologize on my dad's behalf. She said that he felt so ashamed he couldn't bear coming here. I sent the kids to their rooms and explained the situation to her. I also communicated to her that I found her comment to be extremely inappropriate and in poor taste. She started laughing it off, but I was clear with her that we wouldn't tolerate anything like that again. And then she said something like, "Oh, it's so cute that you're trying to be their mom/their adult." I kinda just blinked at her. The remainder of that conversation, she had that same attitude, just not taking me seriously and treating me patronizingly. Naturally, I got fed up and got started on dinner. I don't know where she went for the next while. I think she went into the kids' rooms to help them with homework, but she stuck around for the rest of the night. Out of the kindness of my heart, I cooked extra food for her, even though she didn't ask for permission to stay. And lo and behold, she stayed for dinner. Later on in the night, she was fawning over the kids again, and around 10, in her stepmom manner, she was like, "Okay, my dears, it's time for bed." My younger siblings were in the living room watching TV. They're usually pretty disciplined at going to bed themselves. At this, they looked over to me, gave me the look like, "What is this lady doing?" And I just shrugged, and they went off to their rooms because it was close to their usual bedtime anyway. Now wait for this. I'm in the kitchen cleaning up. Dad's girlfriend is on her phone at the island. She looks up at me and says, "You too, hun." It crosses my mind that she could have been joking, but I realize after a moment that this was not a joke, and she was in fact sending me to bed. So naturally I say, "What?" She says, "It's getting late. Time for bed," and kind of tuts at me. To remind you guys, I am 21 years old. I go to college and am working almost full-time this summer. I've been taking care of my family since I was 12. This woman has been dating my estranged father for barely half a year. So I give her the benefit of the doubt that she clearly has some mental issues and is a little crazy. I tell her I think it's time that she went home. She is insistent that I go on to bed, still acting like she's my mom. This gets me a little ticked off. I explain to her that I feel disrespected being talked to like that, and that I'm an adult. And as an extension to our previous conversation, I need her to take me seriously because I don't joke around about my family or my siblings, and she is on thin ice. She continues to laugh me off and goes on in a super patronizing tone. Again, she uses the phrase, "It's so cute when teenagers try to act like adults." Throws in some stuff about me having a hissy fit and being rebellious. At this point, I'm just so fed up with everything. I simply say, "You have 5 minutes to get your things and leave this house." In response, she scoffs and gets up and walks off to the bathroom. And on the way, I hear her say something along the lines of, "No wonder your dad says you're a frigid little priss." When she's in the bathroom, I go over to her handbag and her keys on the couch. She has a gigantic key ring and a ton of keys, so knowing she won't notice, I remove our house key from the ring. Then I go back to my room. I hear her leave maybe 20 minutes later. The next day, I get a bunch of texts from her panicking about the key. I told her I took it. She said some stuff, called me a brat, saying she was going to tell my uncle and brothers, and that I was being childish. I told her I was at work, and if she wanted to talk, she could call me at 4. Otherwise, she could go bother my brothers about it, but they were at work too, so good luck with that. She went off again with the "stop pretending to be an adult" thing, and said that my younger siblings were like her kids, and she needed to take care of them, and this was unsafe. The last text I sent her was, "This is the last I'll say this. You've been disrespectful of me and my brothers since we met, and dismissed my attempts to communicate with you. I'm no longer investing energy into enduring your behavior. I'm going to be honest, there is very little chance that you are going to get that key back, and this is not helping those chances. Like I said, 4 p.m., you can call." She yapped some more, then blew up my brother's phones and texted my uncle as well. I'm writing this as this is occurring. I told my brothers a bit about what happened when she came over, but they don't know the full story. My uncle is also in the dark about this, but I'll tell them what happened if I need to. Look, I don't doubt that in her heart she does truly care for my younger siblings. I don't think she's a bad person or anything. Plus, my uncle trusted her enough to give her entry into his house. She just really ticked me off. Her whole stepmom act is also really facetious to me. I'd have no problem letting her help out around the house if she was respectful and communicated that's what she wanted. Anyways, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Am I the only one confused as to why she seems to be under the delusion or impression that you're a teenager? You don't owe her anything, but you should hold a family meeting to confront and figure out what your dad is telling her and set the record straight. See, I wish this were a whole misunderstanding, but she knows my age. We've talked about these parts of my life in light conversation. She knows I'm coming home from college with my brother, and even then, I'm working my butt off driving the kids to school, picking them up, packing them lunch, going to work, driving them to sports, making dinners. Even if I was 17, that earns some respect to my name and a rite of passage to being an adult, I feel like. Not the a-hole. This woman is not mentally well. Good job for looking out for your family. OP needs to keep this nutter away from the younger siblings. She is insane. It would be a really good idea to rekey the house locks and make sure that dad and his girlfriend never get another key. This situation is unsafe for the younger kids. Now for the update. So, after dad's girlfriend's freak out, my uncle called me and said, "What's this she's saying about you stole her keys and kicked her out?" And he was already laughing as he said this, because he knows and trusts me, and he knows I'm a level-headed person. And I told him, yeah, she tried to put me to bed and called me a priss. And that cracked him up hard. When I told my brothers too, they were like, wow, I'm surprised you didn't knock her out. They both knew she could be a little weird, but never had she been like that. I think it was because it was the first time she and I were alone. She is not coming back to the house, not picking up the kids again. Only sees the kids when they hang out with dad and oldest brother is around. My uncle has full custody of kids. They are safe. There is more nutty stuff going on with her though. We'll have another update prepared soon. It's gonna be very interesting. Next story. Update. Am I overreacting when I told my boyfriend I was uncomfortable with his friend who abused his ex? Original post. I and my boyfriend has this childhood friend, we'll call him Alan. They've been close since like middle school. Cool, whatever. Anyway, a month ago, Alan's girlfriend dumped him because he was cheating. Not just texting other girls, but also guys. Had Grindr and like 3 other apps, literally scheduling hookups behind her back. Super grimy stuff. When she found out and ended things, rightfully, he apparently lost it. He begged her to take him back, and when she wouldn't, he snapped. From what I heard, he grabbed her by the throat and pinned her down. Then later, he keyed her car and slashed her tires. Yeah, real unhinged behavior. I didn't know the full story until yesterday one of my girlfriends filled me in. I had seen my boyfriend hanging out with Alan a few times recently, but I thought it was just like casual, checking in on him stuff. Once I found out what really happened, I was livid. I called my boyfriend and told him straight up, what Alan did is seriously messed up, and I don't get why you're still hanging out with him. He kinda tried to defend it, saying Alan's going through stuff and that he's known him forever, so it's hard to cut him off. He even said he warned Alan that if he ever touches another girl again, he'd beat him up. I told him I just assumed he'd drop anyone who did something that disgusting. Like, that should be a no-brainer, right? He went all quiet, told me good night, and hung up. He didn't text me at all the next day. Not a single hey or good morning. Nothing. So I talked to my mom about it, because moms are wise, and she helped me write out a message to try and explain where I'm coming from. I sent it to him, hoping it would get through. Spoiler, it didn't. He doubled down, said he didn't want to be the kind of friend who ditches someone when they're down. He literally said, that's the difference between me and you, and that it's the Christian thing to forgive and support people, even when they mess up. Like, okay, sure, forgiveness is fine, but supporting a guy who choked and stalked his ex, that's your hill to die on? He ended the convo by saying he had a lot to think about, then dipped again. And honestly, I'm not even mad anymore. Just kind of stunned and over it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. For a long time, I tried to convince myself that my boyfriend at the time was different than all of his friends, who were, and from what I hear, are still terrible people. Cheating, abusive to their significant others emotionally and sometimes physically, womanizing, etc. It turns out that you are who you surround yourself with. My husband doesn't have any friend who does anything that either of us would find offensive or awful. His friends are all wonderful stand-up people. My friends are all as well. I realized when I dumped my ex that he really was the same as his friends. He checked almost every box on the list of awful behavior before I broke up with him. You're better off without this dude OP. Also, throwing the phrase, "it's the Christian thing to do" around to sound sanctimonious, and like he's doing the right thing, and also insinuating that you're not as good of a person as he is ridiculous and a trash move. I hope you can see through that too. I'm not religious, but using his religion to cover for his friend's abuse is really nuts. Good riddance to your now ex. Exactly. The Christian thing for OP's boyfriend to do would be to check on his former friend's ex and see if there's anything he can do to help her, and for him to tell the former friend that he needs to get help, and until he changes his ways, he won't have anything to do with him. And if he does, maybe he gets a chance then. I don't think your boyfriend's views match yours, and I don't think you should stay in a relationship where he makes excuses for his male friend's abusive actions. When I was in my 20s, I was in the car with my ex, who was driving, and his friend in the back. Something happened, and my boyfriend got mad at me and said, "I should punch you for that." His mate leaned forward between the front seats in a heartbeat to tell him that if he ever said that again, he was going to get knocked out. That is a real man. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should be leaving this relationship. Now for the update. So, I gave him space. A few days went by. No calls, no texts, no "I've been thinking" message like I halfway expected. Just silence. And I don't know what I thought would happen. That he'd come to his senses? Realize this isn't just about being a loyal friend, but about basic decency? Respecting boundaries? Apparently not. I finally reached out again, mostly because I couldn't stand the limbo anymore. I told him, "I'm not asking you to be heartless. I'm asking you to draw a line. Abuse isn't a mistake you just wave off. And if you're choosing to stand by someone who did that, it makes me question your values." His response? A whole wall of text about how I don't understand male friendship, how he's trying to be a better influence for Alan, and how it's not his job to police his friends. He said I'm being too black and white and judgmental. And I just sat there staring at my screen. Like, how did we get here? I told him flat out, if you want to be friends with a guy who choked his girlfriend and vandalized her car, that's your choice. But it's also my choice not to be with someone who's okay with that. We haven't spoken since. I think the saddest part is realizing that the guy I thought I was building something with, someone I trusted, doesn't really see the problem. Or maybe he does, but not enough to act on it. And that says a lot. So yeah, I'm heartbroken, but I'm not confused anymore. I lost my best friend and lots of other friends due to 2 separate instances of abuse and SA. Now I have far fewer friends, but even though I was sad about losing them at first, I actually feel so much better now in general about my own mental health and boundaries. And the friends that I do have left are amazing and so supportive. Anyway, my point is that you did the right thing. This guy doesn't care about what happened to the person that got SA'd. He's shown you his true colors, and you believed him. I know I'm just a stranger on the internet, but I'm very proud of you. You stood up for something that you believed to be wrong, and you stuck by your own morals when it really mattered. Thank you. Reading this makes me feel I'm not alone and you're understanding me. Mail here. I haven't been in this exact same situation, but I was part of something similar. I used to have a male friend with whom I was super close for about a decade. We hung out all the time. I was the best man in his wedding. He and his wife decided to open up their marriage, and I started noticing that he was behaving strangely. He kept asking me how my own relationship was. He brought up the idea of swinging with my girlfriend, and we both dismissed it. Things came to a head when he showed up somewhere he knew my girlfriend was going to be. He didn't know I was going to be there too, and was genuinely shocked to see me. He decided to shoot his shot and said he went there to see if my girlfriend would be interested in hooking up with him. To her credit, she responded, "Well, I'm glad you came all the way down here so I could reject you in person." She told me that she didn't care if I wanted to stay friends with this guy, but that she felt uncomfortable around him and wouldn't allow herself to be near him any longer. I immediately dropped that friendship without a second thought. My girlfriend is now my wife. We just hit our 5-year wedding anniversary. I've never regretted ending that friendship, not even once. Anyway, I know there are people saying you shouldn't put boundaries on this guy, but I don't think that's what you've done here. You put a boundary on yourself. You're self-aware enough to know that you can't be with a guy who doesn't see the problematic behavior of his friend, and you shouldn't have to subject yourself to a relationship with someone like that. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, but I'm proud of you for making the decision that's best for you. Update. Daughter's mother just left her at my place. Original post. I'm very angry, so this is going to be a bit of a rant. My daughter's mom and I were young and only dating when she got pregnant with our daughter. We broke up and decided to co-parent. I would spend weekends and holidays with my daughter, which was honestly upsetting. I wish I got to spend more time with her growing up. My daughter, who is now 13, started staying with me more after her mom married her now husband a few months ago. My daughter would always tell me her stepdad doesn't like her that much. I would try and ask questions about what she meant by that. She would say he wouldn't hurt her or anything. He just doesn't like her. She would tell me she didn't want to talk about it, so I wouldn't push. Well, I was away on a business trip and didn't get home until 1 a.m. to find my daughter sitting on the porch with about 4 packed bags. I was so confused and angry seeing my 13-year-old daughter sitting out there in the middle of the night. Turns out, my ex found out she was pregnant and her husband insisted they don't need my daughter around anymore because they have their own family. That he never wanted a kid in his home who wasn't related to him anyway, so it's a perfect time to start fresh with their own family. Instead of the ex sticking up for our daughter, she agreed and made daughter pack and dropped her off at my place. Ex didn't tell me, and my daughter's phone was dead, so my poor baby was sitting outside alone for 10 hours. I am so mad my ex would do this, and I feel so bad for my daughter. She's absolutely heartbroken. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Call the police for child abandonment. What your ex did was vile, but should also be illegal. Now consult an attorney and get full legal custody of your child and try to get her into some therapy, please. So sorry your ex is a poor excuse of a mother. Your daughter deserves so much better. I called the police last night. Luckily, I know a good family law attorney and definitely plan on getting her into therapy soon. My poor girl wasn't doing well at all last night when I found her, and I feel so bad I wasn't home to prevent some of the damage done. I couldn't imagine how she was feeling while alone waiting for me. The fact your daughter has you on her side means everything. It will take a while for her to get past this hurt, and it may always sting her heart for the rest of her life. But having her father to support her and love her through it all is going to be life-changing for her. You're a great dad. Call CPS2. Also go tomorrow to the courthouse and file for emergency full custody of your daughter. That will make it so your ex can't block getting your daughter into therapy immediately. Being abandoned for 10 hours puts her at serious risk for PTSD. I can't believe a mother would do this. Shame on her. Your daughter will probably never forgive her. I'm glad she has you. Thank you. I can't believe she would do this to her daughter either. It would be very unlikely if she forgave her mom. I can tell it was such a traumatizing experience for her. My baby was shaking from anxiety so bad when I got home, and it was clear she had been or was crying. Wouldn't be surprised if she had a panic or anxiety attack. My mother abandoned me at 15. 30 years later, and I've still never spoken to her despite her many attempts at reconciliation. Some things you just can't come back from. It was difficult then, and I did go through a lot of therapy, but what saved me were the people who showed up for me. They were a lifeline and kept me from feeling completely alone and devolving into bitterness over the whole thing. Your daughter will never forget that you were the person who showed up and continues to fight for her. My dad did this once. I was maybe 4 or 5. It was only maybe an hour I was alone, let alone 10, but it's been 20 years and I still remember it like yesterday. It's very traumatic. Had abandonment issues from this and other similar incidents. Dog, that's child abandonment. You should definitely sue your ex and her new dead husband. Do not let that nonsense slide, my brother. I don't plan on letting it slide. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a kinda small but also big update from my post yesterday. My ex and her husband got arrested, each got a charge of child abandonment and child neglect. We got lucky, and a nearby neighbor's camera footage caught them dropping off my daughter and quickly driving off. My daughter clearly heartbroken. We also got the neighbor's camera footage of my daughter sitting outside by herself. I am currently in touch with an attorney who is hopefully going to help me and my daughter get justice for everything that happened. For people wondering how my daughter is doing, mentally and emotionally not well, which is to be expected. I have been trying to reassure her she is safe and didn't do anything wrong, as well as giving her lots of hugs and reassuring her that I love her. I got in touch with her school and they were able to point me in the best direction for a therapist, and she'll start therapy later next week. You honestly saved 2 kids. These individuals should be in jail and alone. I'm so sorry for your daughter. Her mother choosing not to be a good person is a choice. She is not at fault, and she cannot control others or their behaviors. I completely forgot about that feeling when mom drives off. I was the one who commented yesterday about being abandoned as a teen. Before that happened, my mom would periodically leave me in places, mall, grocery store, and just drive off. I'd forgotten that desolate feeling, as well as the thought that I was at fault, and I do now remember blaming myself for a while. I think it's a testament to therapy, having love and reassurance, and just plain old time. It's been so long since I've dealt with my mom's abuse and BS that I simply don't remember how badly it made me feel. Intellectually, I know, but I no longer feel it on a visceral level like I did back then. My point is, and not to belittle this situation, because it is extremely hurtful and difficult, your daughter can definitely come out of this all right. I'm so glad she has you in her corner. I'm sorry you went through that, and my post brought that back for you. I'm glad you're doing good now. I know my daughter will come out good, just needs the right support, and of course time to heal. How are your relationships with your neighbors? I guess I'm asking how a neighbor could see your daughter sitting on the porch crying for 10 hours and not ask her where you were. Why she's sitting on the porch with her bags and not being let inside, if she was all right or needed help. They could have let her use their phone to call you. I just don't understand how they could let her sit there, if she could be seen. I know the ones who had camera footage who I actually know weren't or aren't home. I just happened to ask, and they looked back and found the footage. Others I'm unsure about. It's easy to look away or turn a blind eye and decide not to get involved. Next story. I can't forgive my husband for what he did when our son died. Original post. I, 41 female, have been married 21 years to my husband, 41 male. We have several children. One of them was special needs. He was born with a genetic mutation that neither of us carry. It was random chance. He was sick most of his life, and I was his primary caregiver. He needed nursing home level care. I had a nurse that came to help me a few days a week. My husband, his father, did not help much at all, no matter how much I asked for his help. He was always too busy or too tired and complained of back pain. Our son lived 15 years. I carried him, took care of all his needs, did his meds, his tube feeding, stayed up with him at night, etc. I had to take up bodybuilding to be strong enough to transfer him to and from his wheelchair or better couch or anything because my husband would not help. I suffered back injuries and even had to crawl on the floor at times to meet my son's needs. He still didn't help. He might change a diaper now and then and want a prize for doing so. I couldn't divorce him because I could not have a job while also caring for our son. His needs got greater and greater as he got older. By the time he died, he was on 6 seizure meds and had several machines he had to use for part of each day. Still, he was a happy, joyful child that loved life and was a joy to be around. He was always laughing and playing and very loved by me and his siblings. When he died, we knew it was coming. I was in the hospital with him and he died in my arms, peacefully and not in pain. It was the worst moment of my life. An hour after he died, my husband started going on about how he wanted to spend my son's life insurance money on an expensive four-wheeler. He decided that because the policy was through his work and under his name, that the money belonged to him. I hated this idea and wanted to put the money towards our house. He spent it, all of it. He knew I didn't want that, and he told everyone that I was on board with it, and then acted shocked when I screamed and yelled at him for spending the money. He told his family that I didn't tell him till after, but at this point, even his family sees how awful he acted. He never helped take care of our son, and then blew all the life insurance money. To make matters worse, he tricked one of our adult sons into paying for the cremation. I paid him back immediately when I found out. I can't forgive this man. I am so angry beyond words. I am also financially trapped as I have no work history for the last 21 years. I hate this. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You are entitled to spousal maintenance after divorce. You may not have any official work history, but you worked as a non-paid personal caregiver for all those years. That's work experience. I get that it feels like you are trapped, but you really aren't. Please talk with a divorce lawyer. You are strong and resilient. You will thrive when you leave him. Jumping off this thought, maybe look into becoming a personal care assistant. My best friend does this and is considered unskilled since she doesn't have a degree. She had no work history for over a decade since she was a stay-at-home mom, but was able to find a way into industry because of the skills she got being a mom. And you cared for your son in a much more relevant way than she did caring for her non-disabled child. The work you did caring for your children is work, and you can tailor a resume to reflect all the very real skills learned on the job. You have managed schedules, planned events, maintained your household, navigated your way through the healthcare system. It's all in how you frame it. Tons of people would love to hire someone with your experience. If there were ever a time for Reddit to say this tired trope, this is it. Dump that ass hat and get the alimony you deserve. I'm not a fan of alimony in all cases, but this is clearly indicated here. I work as a caregiver or home care aide, and I make a decent living. Not fantastic, but I get by. And I had no experience prior to this. I was just looking to pay my way through school. It can be a very rewarding job, and you definitely have more experience than a lot of people starting out in this field. There's always a need. Just look on Indeed under caregiver and research the company or agency to make sure they're a good fit. Seconding this, my friend does some of this work for my mother, and the facility is always offering more hours with training. Now for the update. Thank you all for your kind words. Since this post, I have been working my tail off. My adult son got me a job working as a baker in the restaurant he worked in. It was only weekends, but I quickly learned the job and excelled at it, gaining confidence in myself and making friends. Then last week, I got laid off. The weather hasn't been good, and the restaurant hasn't had enough business to keep me employed. I was scared that I wouldn't find anything, but due to a strange set of circumstances, ended up reaching out to my son's former caseworker, and she recommended that I apply for 2 positions, one as a caregiver and another as a special needs job advocate. I wasn't sure how it would go, seeing as how all my bills were unpaid. Work, I didn't think employers would take a look at me, but both interviews went really well. All my experience taking care of my son was praised and very relevant for the jobs. I'm now waiting for a callback after background checks are complete, but it sounds like I have a really good chance at getting both of these jobs. They are both part-time and flexible enough that I can be at home with my children during most of the day, so I can continue homeschooling and doing all the things. As far as my marriage, that's up in the air. Not much has changed there. Sometimes he seems like he's trying to be a better partner, but his efforts are so small at this point, it doesn't feel like enough. Still, I'm moving forward in every way that I can to carve out a new life for myself. Thank you so much for everyone that told me to write out a resume detailing my skills as a mother, homemaker, home cook, and caregiver. It's been life-changing. Last story. Found out my boyfriend was a cheating scum when I rushed him to the ER. I'm beyond heartbroken and angry. My longtime boyfriend had an accident at home and broke a few bones. When we got to the hospital, he was so out of it, he gave me his phone pin because my phone had died. He guarded that phone like it was the crown jewels. Asian dating, local hookups, finding women overseas. Messages kept coming from all those apps and sites. So many porn streaming sites, but what sent me over the edge was the texts and emails and videos with other women. The pics they'd taken on Valentine's Day, the quick vacations where he was supposedly taking care of his family, declarations of love and lust going back years. Women he'd told me not to worry about, they're just friends. One lost her parents and was having a hard time. Another wanted help figuring out to sell her home. You know the excuses. He'd told me I was ridiculous, paranoid, acting like a controlling witch. But I could feel it. He'd stopped hugging me, touching me, and blamed it on the stress of having to take care of his handicapped mom. All while proclaiming he loved me so much, calling me the same sweet nicknames, the ones he used with the others as well, by the way. Even talked about wanting to get married, brought that up with one of the others as well, which destroyed me. Now he's in the hospital, and I can just stare at his lying freaking cheating face in that bed. He may not remember when he wakes up that I told him he's wasted my time and my love, and that I hate him more than anything on this earth, and this will be the last time he sees me in this life. But the one thing I did do is use his phone to message all of the other women he'd been romancing, texting or sexting, telling them how sexy they are and how good they make him feel. Oh baby, I'm ready to have a real relationship because you're the only one I want. And told them what he's done, that he's more than a piece of turd-stained trash. He's the whole freaking dumpster. Took pics and sent myself a lot of the evidence before I unfollowed, blocked and deleted every last trace of myself and us from his phone. I don't want to ever forget how he's treated me, so I won't even think about forgiveness. I lost my best friend. Now I'm sitting and looking out the window, waiting for sunrise and a new day to unfold, and wondering why he sucks so much and makes me feel like I'm not enough. I know I am, but I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone with my heart again. Sorry it's long, just had to get this off my chest. I hope you're at home looking out a window and not at a hospital with him. The only reason to be by his side at this point is to pull the plug on your relationship. No, I would want to stay all night and then show him the screenshots as soon as he wakes up so he can suffer alone after that the whole day. It would hurt more to leave him alone with no closure. He'll know exactly why she's gone forever, and he'll be chaotic knowing he can't manipulate her with words. You only lost the idea of him. Clearly he was never truly the man you loved. Grieve, heal, and let true love find you. Yes, I read through 11 years of my ex-husband's emails. It was brilliant. I didn't feel bad about divorcing him then. I almost stayed even, if he'd been honest. But he tried to blame it on me, and I slammed that door forever. I told myself I'm not looking, but if love should really find me, I don't want to be bitter, and I don't want to punish him. About 3 months later, I was more in love than I've ever been. I get to live with someone who wants to live with me.